My God, this phone...
new era.
Some of the best that I've seen in a long time.
Most super deluxe smartphone to date.
Welcome back to Re-Review, where we watch all the reviews so you don't have to. Today we're diving deep into the Oppo Find X8 Ultra, a phone aiming to max out the spec sheet, especially when it comes to cameras. Let's see what the experts had to say.
If you were to make your 2025 dream phone spec sheet with unlimited budget, what would you do? Well, you'd probably start with a Snapdragon 8 Elite and something like 16 gigs of RAM and a terabyte of storage. And then, of course, an ultra bright, high refresh rate AMOLED. And don't forget, even super thin bezels all the way around. Then you got to throw in at least a 6,000 milliamp hour battery, but also make it one of those silicon carbon batteries so the phone can still be thin. And then give it 100 watt charging and 50 watt wireless charging and reverse charging too while you're at it. Then give it a full-on 1-inch sensor for the main camera. And then if physics even allows it, you can also give it a huge sensor for an ultra wide and a telephoto. Actually, I don't know, make it 2 telephotos. And all the trimmings. It's got to have them all. Wi-Fi 7, NFC, dual SIM, IP69, of course, even an infrared emitter. Can't forget about that. And yeah, that is the exact spec sheet of this phone. This is the Oppo Find X8 Ultra.
It seems that Oppo aimed for the absolute peak of current mobile tech. But specs are one thing. How does it actually look and feel in the hand?
It's ditched that two-tone vegan leather that the Find X7 Ultra had last year, and I'm glad because I'm not a fan of that. But now, this year round, what they've done is they've rounded the sides of this phone. They've got a really nice matte finish on the back of this, and I'm a huge fan.
Now, what I particularly like about the Find X8 Ultra is that Oppo has managed to make the industrial design in such a way that despite fitting such a large camera module inside the phone and having a large 1-inch sensor along with 4 other sensors alongside it, it's actually managed to make it slim. I think that this must be the slimmest Ultra phone with an Ultra camera setup.
It's relatively thin at 8.78 millimeters thick. So that's the thickness from the camera bump all the way to the screen, 8.78 millimeter. This is significantly thinner than the Xiaomi 15 Ultra.
But you know what makes this phone special is that despite packing an insane camera hardware, it still feels very much like a usual flagship phone. And you'll be surprised how well balanced the entire phone feels in your hand.
Oppo also introduced some new physical controls taking inspiration from recent trends.
You may well have spied that the alert slider over on that left edge appears to have been replaced with a regular button of sorts. That means that Oppo could well have segued to an iPhone-style action button, which presumably would be just as customizable.
Oppo is saying they have basically turned the alert slider that was previously in OnePlus phones to a physical clicky button, but this is basically like the action button of the iPhone. Even the UI, when you first press the action button, the UI that launches looks exactly like the UI in the action button on the iPhone.
The button that I want to talk about is also inspired by Apple's camera control button. Now, Oppo calls it Quick button, and this is in its 2nd generation now. Basically, what you can do is swipe on this button to actually zoom in or zoom out of images. Unfortunately, you can't switch between modes right now, so keep that in mind.
So, a sleek, surprisingly slim design for the power it packs, but definitely borrowing some inspiration for its new buttons. Let's check out that screen.
The display is also really nice. It's now flat and it's 6.8 inches and it's 120 Hz and it has a peak brightness of 2500 nits. And like most OLED screens, this is just great. So watching content in here is fantastic because the colors just pop. And now they've got rid of the curved edges. I'm a big fan of this.
1440p resolution, super sharp, check. 120 Hz LTPO, also check. 1600 nits full screen brightness with 2500 nits peak HDR, check. 2160 Hz PWM dimming, also check. This display looks great pretty much everywhere.
This fingerprint unlock is actually ultrasonic. This is a welcome change from the previous version. It will work better with wet hands. It should just be faster and more accurate overall.
Under the hood, it's got the power you'd expect from those top-tier specs.
The Find X8 Ultra is powered by the Snapdragon 8 Elite. It's the same chip that's powering the S25 Ultra and a lot of other flagships from 2025. So when it comes to benchmarks, it's pretty much hitting the numbers you would be expecting. So anything that you throw at this, it's mostly going to handle with ease.
we did manage to run Wuthering Waves, and I'm very happy to report that the performance is actually excellent. We got an average FPS of 59.5, plus the temperatures were in check too. They were under 45 degrees. This phone didn't get hot and it performs really well too. Plus it's a flat screen, so if you're a gamer, you're gonna enjoy the experience of gaming on this phone.
And that large battery paired with the rapid charging makes power anxiety a thing of the past.
Let me tell you, this lasts so well. And now, in the couple of days that I've been using it, there isn't a day where I've got to less than 30% unless I'm really pushing it. And you can see here on my first day of usage from the screenshot, I went over a day without charging this and it only got to about 4%.
It also charges at 100 watts, so it can go from dead to full in something like 40 minutes, which is obviously incredibly convenient, but also anytime the phone's even a little bit low, you can just plug it in for a few short minutes, and it feels like it's basically right up to nearly full again. It's awesome.
Flagship performance, impressive gaming, and a massive battery with super fast charging, all while staying slim. Now, let's get to the main event, the cameras.
So let's kick things off with the Oppo Find X8 Ultra and its penta-camera system on the back here. So you can only see 4 right now, which are all the 50 megapixel sensors for the main ultra-wide and zoom cameras. That main sensor is a 1-inch type sensor, which should capture some incredible shots in daylight and low light. But we also have the ultra-wide, as mentioned, and then a 3x periscope zoom camera, along with another 6x periscope zoom camera. And then we have that 2 megapixel true chroma camera sensor there at the bottom. And that's not going to be used for capturing photos, but rather white balance.
The primary camera is a 1-inch type sensor, which is already huge. That's the same sensor size as point and shoot camera, like the RX100. This sensor is 63% larger than the iPhone 16 Pro Max's main sensor, and 69% larger than the one in the Galaxy S25 Ultra. Nice. But then the second camera, the 3x telephoto, is also enormous. That 50 megapixel sensor is 300% larger than the telephoto in the Galaxy S25 Ultra. But then there's even more, because there's a second telephoto camera, another 50 megapixel, that is 6x this time, and this one is also 30% larger than the S25 Ultra's second telephoto.
There's also one more sensor right here. It's tiny. This is called a true chroma sensor. It's basically a color temperature sensor, but instead of detecting the color temperature of the entire scene at once, detects it as small grids. So that allows the Oppo Find X8 Ultra to analyze color temperature in small sections.
Absolutely stacked hardware, a massive main sensor, huge telephotos, and that dedicated chroma sensor. How does it translate into actual photos?
Daytime image quality of these two flagships is actually very close. Both the Oppo Find X8 Ultra and Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra have performed really well under bright daylight. Samsung tends to add a bit of saturation and keeps the white balance slightly on the warmer side. Oppo, on the other hand, has rendered more neutral colors with better tone balance. Dynamic range is excellent on both, but Oppo has done a slightly better job with textures, shadow control, and micro details.
Taking photos, especially in low light, you can really tell the difference. You can also take JPEG max photos in the master mode, which means you can take full advantage of that 1-inch 50 megapixel sensor.
Remember how I'd crowned the Xiaomi 15 Ultra as the best low light camera out there? The Find X8 Ultra actually beats it. You can see that Oppo captures more details, it has a brighter exposure with more details in the shadows, and more importantly, even better noise control. The Xiaomi 15 Ultra was already superb, and this one just takes it even a notch ahead.
Across almost every lighting condition, Oppo has performed better. Yeah, I have taken night mode photos under harsh lighting, street reflections, and mixed color temperatures. Oppo Find X8 Ultra handled details better in most shots. Shadows were well balanced, the noise was under control, and textures came out clean. Color rendition leaned natural with no unnecessary saturation.
The zoom lenses have also received significant upgrades and praise.
I love that 6x optical. It's really nice, and I'm maybe a little bit obsessed with this because the details that you can get from the photos are some of the best that I've seen in a long time. The photos are slightly over sharpened and just a little bit too much saturation, but I can look past that.
You can get strong natural bokeh, sharp details, and anything up to, I want to say, 10 to 12x zoom, you're getting really almost lossless quality. If you go beyond that to 20x, 30x, then the AI zoom enhance kicks in, And that could be hit or miss, but it hits a lot more than before. Look at these samples here. These are all 20-something, 30-something X zoom shots.
They function as telemacro lenses. So you can just switch to macro mode. It activates the 3x and the 6x lenses. And now you can take these macro shots from a distance. They look really good and super detailed.
The impressive hardware extends to video with some groundbreaking new features.
Oppo have done a really good job here because this could potentially match up to the iPhones and be the best video on any Android. First off, you can record at 4K 60. However, there is going to be an update coming where you can record in 4K 120, which matches the iPhone 16 Pro Max.
So you now have the option to shoot at 4K 120 FPS from the primary and the 3x cameras and in Dolby Vision, no less. And the rest of the cameras, including the front one, can shoot 4K 60 FPS Dolby Vision videos. I love the video quality from these cameras. Even the sound recording was great. 4K 120 FPS video recording right now. So this is a 4K 60 FPS Dolby Vision video recording using the front camera.
The stabilization on this video might just be the best I've seen on any Android. It's almost gimbal-like, it's that smooth. Now, switching between lenses when you film is never that smooth, but Oppo again have done a good job here because this might be one of the smoothest switching of lenses experiences that I've had. And
Surprisingly, both phones managed well under pressure, but Oppo Find X8 Ultra handled it better than the Galaxy S25 Ultra. It maintained exposure, dynamic range, and motion balance more effectively, especially when aiming for clean cinematic finish.
But there are a couple of things missing that keeps this phone from maybe reaching the heights that the Vivo X200 Ultra is probably going to reach. So number one is, for video, we cannot shoot at 24 frames per second. The second missing feature is the Find X8 Ultra cannot shoot in log footage.
Incredible video specs like 4K 120 Dolby Vision and top-tier stabilization, though missing some pro features like 24 frames per second and log recording might disappoint some. The phone runs Oppo's Color OS, known for its smoothness and its tendency to borrow heavily from elsewhere.
ColorOS has leveled up quite a bit this year. With ColorOS 15, you get live activities. You also do get flux themes for the lock screen. You also get a bunch of customization options and animations that are tuned so beautifully, you know. It's a proper premium experience.
For those of you who have used Oppo phones before, you know the shamelessness runs deep. Like ColorOS 15, it's still good and it still has a ton of its own features, but it is impossible to ignore all of the iOS copying that they do, from the settings app to the split notifications and quick settings to the dynamic island to the camera app layout to the lock screen customization. My favorite part is where they tell everyone you can even airdrop straight from an Oppo to an iPhone because they've got built-in airdrop, but you actually need to install a special app on the iPhone to make it work.
Also, don't forget, you get all of those great Oppo AI features as well in the camera app and aside from that. So going into AI Editor, you can recompose, enhance the clarity. There's AI Eraser to remove objects from the picture, unblur, and even remove reflections if you take a picture through a window.
So it sounds an absolute beast of a phone. There's just one major problem for many potential buyers.
there is some bad news if you were looking to pick up the Find X8 Ultra. The bad news is that it's not coming outside of China. And I asked Oppo, is it going to come outside of China anytime soon? And their answer wasn't massively positive. And they said that they are focusing just on releasing this in China. So I wouldn't hold your breath for a global release of this.
It always feels a little weird to talk about a phone that is most certainly not going to launch in India, especially one that is an ultra flagship.
Of course, the big question is, will the Oppo Find X8 Ultra ever actually find its way here to Blighty, especially after the debacle that was the Find N5 launch, which did technically launch over here, but then just never actually bothered being released.
So the Oppo Find X8 Ultra. On paper and according to most reviewers, it's about as close to a dream spec Android phone as you can get in 2025. The design is refined and surprisingly slim and well balanced considering the hardware inside. The display is top tier, performance is excellent, and the battery life combined with industry-leading charging speeds is a major highlight. The camera system is where it truly aims to dominate. The massive sensors across the board, particularly the main and significantly improved zoom lenses, deliver stunning detail, natural bokeh, and impressive low-light performance that challenges and often beats the best competitors. The dedicated Chroma sensor seems to contribute to a more natural and accurate colors, particularly in mixed lighting. The video capabilities, especially 4K 120 Dolby Vision and class-leading stabilization, are cutting edge. Through the lack of 24 frames per second and log recording is notable omission for pro users. The software is smooth and feature-rich, but continues Oppo's tradition of heavy iOS inspiration, which remains a point of discussion, and added AI features provide useful editing tools. But the biggest takeaway, unfortunately, is the limited availability. As a China exclusive, at least for now, this incredible piece of hardware remains out of reach for most people around the world, serving more as a showcase of Oppo's capabilities and perhaps a sign of what competitors need to match rather than a phone most people can actually buy. If you can get your hands on it and don't mind the software quirks and import hassles, it seems to offer an absolute best hardware experience, especially for mobile photography available today. For everyone else, it's a tantalizing glimpse of what's possible, raising the bar significantly for future flagship phones. That's it for our ultimate roundup review of the Oppo Find X8 Ultra. Please find links for full videos down below and subscribe for more re-reviews where we watch older reviews so you don't have to.